Asymptomatic spread of coronavirus is very rare. Who says? Won't get fooled again. Isn't this something? Government responses should focus on detecting and isolating infected people with symptoms, the World Health Organization said. Preliminary evidence from the earliest outbreaks indicates that the virus could spread even if people don't have symptoms. But the WHO says that while asymptomatic spread can occur, it is very rare. So you'd have to try to just define what very rare is, because they basically shut down the entire economy of the world, put hundreds of millions of people out of work, destroyed countless amounts of businesses around the world. And yet the spread through asymptomatic people is very rare. Now, you know the whole thing is a big three-ring circus because you know, right? You've seen all the George Floyd protests, the Black Lives Matter, and everything thrown out the window. I mean, people are sweating on top of all each other. They're all crammed in like sardines in these events. And it's been going on for a couple weeks now. And you know what? I mean, it's pretty silly when these coalition of doctors come together and they say, you know what? we want everybody to practice strict social distancing. We want you all to stay 6 feet apart, wear a mask. Hey, we want you to wear a mask in bed. We want you to wear a mask wherever you go. We want you to wear a mask when you're making love to your significant other. No joke. I showed this the other day. But it's okay though if you're gonna go and protest white supremacy. Wow. See, white supremacy is a quote unquote public health risk. It's a public health. I guess these people watch a lot of Netflix. Is that what happens? You watch Netflix and you're convinced that there's all these white supremacists around? But I mean, the crime of the century, the biggest caper in the history of the world, has been pulled off. And here, the WHO itself is basically telling you, well, it was pretty much all for naught. By the way, too, I mean, if we're going to go by the tests themselves, you know the tests that you can, I don't know, you could test your fruit and your CRISPR. Maybe take it down to the barn. Give it to the animals. Try them out. Goats, the chickens, try your fruit, try your vegetables in your garden, because I don't know, that's what they did in Tanzania, and they got a lot of positive results. So what does that say about the test? What exactly does that say about the test? So look at what they have done and how many people actually have died, as opposed to how many people died, say, during the flu season, say in New York City, where they were saying 4,000 people were dying a week back in 2018 because of the flu season, but you didn't see them shut down every, Tom, Dick, and Harry frickin' mom and pop place that existed, and forcing everybody to quarantine and dance through hoops of fire just to get into a grocer. I mean, it's just madness what they've pulled off here. The astonishing hypocrisy too, where it's like, no, you can't do this, you can't get together, can't gather, can't have sports, can't go in stadiums, except if you're gonna protest white supremacy, then it's okay. You see, then you see, well, what happens then is that even though corona is really dangerous and it's a public health thing, the white supremacy thing is worse, and Black lives really, really matter. So go out and protest, but otherwise stay at home, wear a mask at all times, wear it to bed, wear it in the shower. You gotta come up with names for all these people, because I see them all around, It's like the masked bike riders, the masked people in their cars, the masked people that are jogging, masked joggers. Do you know this too? I showed this like last month or something. But there were actually 2 Chinese kids, ISHITU not, that dropped dead in gym class because they were forced to run with these masks on. The masked tards have taken over, and their idiocy. And look at this. And what was it all for? Well, right? It's what's it all for? So coronavirus patients without symptoms aren't driving the spread of the virus, says the World Health Organization officials, casting doubt on concerns by some researchers that the disease could be difficult to contain due to asymptomatic infections. Because that was the whole sell, right? Oh, you could have it. You didn't know. I'm wearing the mask to keep people safe. It's like here in Quebec, the Quebec government's got these commercials where these teenagers are saying, I'm staying home and playing video games. I'm saving lives. I'm staying home and looking at my social media. I'm saving lives. You're saving lives. So I have to laugh. I mean, what else can you do? Some people, particularly young and otherwise healthy individuals who are infected by the coronavirus, never develop symptoms or develop mild symptoms. Others might not develop symptoms until days after they were actually infected. Preliminary evidence from the earliest outbreaks indicated that the virus could spread from person-to-person contact, even if the carrier didn't have symptoms. But WHO officials now say that while asymptomatic spread can occur, it's not the main way it's being transmitted. In fact, they say it's extremely rare. From the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person who actually transmit onward to a secondary individual, says Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove, the head of the WHO Emergency Diseases and Zoonosis Unit. It sure is a zoo, isn't it? It's a zoo and a three-ring circus. It's just insane what they have done. So let's listen into Dr. Van Kerkhove here. Take it away, Kerkhove. And make sure you play. Play with the African style on. Yeah.
We hear from a number of countries.
He's got the purple on.
X percentage of them are reported as not having symptoms, or that they are in their pre-symptomatic phase, which means it's a few days before they actually develop severe symptoms. In a number of countries, when we go back and we discuss with them, one, how are these asymptomatic cases being identified? Many of them are being identified through contact tracing. And so, which is what we would want to see, in that you have a known case, you find your contacts, they're already in quarantine, hopefully, and some of them are tested, and then you pick up people who may have asymptomatic or no symptoms or even mild symptoms. The other thing we're finding is that when we actually go back and say how many of them were truly asymptomatic, we find out that many have really mild disease, very mild disease. They're not quote unquote.
Hey, God, you shut down the entire
they
world.
May not have developed fever yet. They may not have a significant cough, or they may not have shortness of breath.
Crime of the century. Crime of the century.
We do know that there can be people that are truly asymptomatic and PCR positive. The second part of your question is what proportion of asymptomatic individuals actually transmit?
Yes.
So the way that we look at that is we look at these individuals need to be followed carefully over the course of when they're detected and looking at secondary transmission. We have a number of reports from countries who are doing very detailed contact tracing. They're following asymptomatic cases, they're following contacts, and they're not finding secondary transmission onward. It's very rare.
Very rare. I don't know. I mean, I can only imagine. I hope people will go and take these people to court. I mean, for what they've done, this is unbelievable. Of course, it's all part of their plan, you know. This is really nothing about a real virus. This is all about taking control, you know, a new world. A whole new world. They want their new world so bad that they carried out this caper and they just shut everything down and they forced all these people out of their jobs. 40, 50 million now in the United States. And then they burned down half the country, sort of thing. Way to go. Right? All because of white supremacy. Isn't that interesting? We'll just look that up for a second here. We'll ask Skrugel here. We'll say, I don't know, social distancing and BLM, or Black Lives Matter. It's okay. It's okay. Boris Johnson calls to end Black Lives. Well, at least he's calling to end it. Queensland politician here. But these riots that they have, riots, these protests that they're having, they actually said that, oh, it's okay. Doctors here. I don't know why I'm getting the doctors here. MDs, doctors. So yeah, here, white coats for Black Lives Matter. 6 professionals. That's not the one. I had it here the other day though, where I showed this, and they all came forth and basically said, it's okay, it's okay. Don't worry. Please go out and protest. In fact, what I should put in here is white supremacy. Yeah, that's it. White supremacy. And you got Terry Crews. You got Ben and Jerry's coming out with a new white supremacy. Facebook removes nearly 200 accounts linked to white supremacy. End the scourge of white supremacy. Albuquerque bookstores selling out on books on race. Lego donates $4 million. Ben and Jerry's. It's unbelievable what they're up to, this whole thing. White supremacy, all of a sudden, now it's okay to go out and protest. Now it's awesome to do it, where we were all told to lockstep and never freaking leave our homes unless it was essential. That you weren't allowed to travel, you weren't allowed to go anywhere. You had to go through checkpoints, and you can only go through the checkpoints if you were, if you were essential services. Where are your papers? And here we are, and now the whole thing is just chaos. It's such a big joke what they've done. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. People, and when you think about it, at the end of the day, an invisible enemy on top of it, like completely invisible. And also now you've got, what's going on here? Google here. I got this from Stranger Than Fiction. Here's how Alexa, Google Assistant, and Siri answer the question, do Black Lives Matter? You know how it is? Do Black Lives Matter? You ask Siri the wrong, and look at the symbolism here too with the one eye. I mean, is this what Alexa or Siri or whatever looks like? I don't even know. I wouldn't know. But yeah, they've got, do Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter. I think people deserve to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. I think, do all lives matter? Because people are asking that. And then these so check this out. Apple's Siri here. Do Black Lives Matter? Yes, Black Lives Matter. And then if you say, do all lives matter? Ask Siri, do all lives matter? All lives matter is often used in response to the phrase Black Lives Matter, but it does not represent the same concerns. Okay, thanks for that, Siri. Thanks. Good job, Siri. And check out these pods. Look at these pods that they're selling here. They got you. Stick them in the pod. Pretty soon, this is where you're gonna sleep. You're gonna sleep sitting up or standing up. And they'll strap you down to the wall or something and get your little pod. Then they'll stick somebody else in there with you. Don't worry, they'll put a plexiglass between you so you can do your social distancing. I mean, it's just nuts what's going on. It's just nuts. Like, the whole thing is just incredible that this has happened. Now they're coming out, of course, and they're trying to backtrack on it here. You've got the WHO here saying, WHO backtracks on claim that asymptomatic spread of COVID-19 is very rare. Experts say, Pentagon officials say, barbarous star. The research on the extent of asymptomatic spread of COVID-19 is still emerging. Well, it's great that you shut down the entire economy. One thing that really pisses me off are these reporters. All of them. And how giddy they get doing the reports on all this stuff when everybody else is out of the job and these scumbags are still going full steam. But, yeah, this is just nuts. I mean, the whole thing here that is going on, I mean, it just gets worse every day, right? Now they're going to backtrack on it because, oh, no, you said something you shouldn't have said. Verkoven, or whatever her name was here. Maria Van Kerkhove. Van Kerkhove here just opened her trap a little bit too much. She said, oh, it's very rare. It's very rare. Oh, well. Very rare. It's a good thing you guys shut down the entire world, destroyed, thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of businesses and put millions of people, hundreds of millions of people out of work around the world. Good thing. I'm sure you did it all to keep us morally safer. Could you just imagine? that they actually got away with this. I mean, we're still in the whole scamdemic thing. It's still being played out, especially here in Montreal and New York City and other places. I mean, they've locked down the borders in the provinces here in Quebec. There's certain provinces you're not even allowed to go into. It's like, since when do you have the right to frickin'... I mean, like, what the hell is going on here? It's just insane. And then, of course, what are they going to do? Well, if you don't know this, Trump has ordered 500 million syringes for his warp speed. So 500 million, and you do the math, right? I mean, I'm sure a bunch of truthers are going to break it when they're fighting to stop themselves from getting force inoculated by the military. But, I mean, they'll make a couple hundred. They're like, okay, make a couple 100 million extra just for all the ones that'll probably get smashed. But Rainbow Unicorn Land here, Trudeau's a little bit more confident. He only ordered 37 million. See, that's the population of Rainbow Unicorn Land. He's like, Canadians will listen. Canadians will not reject the vaccine. Yeah, exactly. That's what they expect. But yeah, wow. Isn't it crazy, though, that they got away with this? You see, I mean, nobody can forget this. I don't understand how the whole world hasn't woken up to it, but of course people are dumb. But, you know, you'd think the whole world would have woken up to it by now. It's like, well, wait a second. I thought social distancing was crucial and nobody could get close to each other. And yet I look on the television and they're all climbing all over each other and beating on each other and sweating on each other. And they're crammed like sardines in crowds of hundreds of thousands of people. And they're ripping things down, and they're breaking into businesses, and they're breathing all over and sweating all over and bleeding all over each other, and somehow there's some deadly virus going around, and you told us all to stop working. You forced us all to close all of our businesses and shut out and lock down and lose all of our income. Oh my God, it's out of this world. I mean, I'm never gonna get over how insane this whole thing was. I mean, it's it just blows me away. It's like they actually did this. I mean, this is without a doubt, it's the crime of the century. Of course, what we need to fear are all the solutions, like something I just uploaded there from before, which was the gates that you got to go through, the zapper UV and the whole computer AI reading your body temperature, figuring out what you had for dinner last night kind of thing, right? Making sure, checking your head. Hey, this one's working a little bit too well. turn up the zapper here. It's just nuts, folks. It's really nuts. Anyways, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen. What do you think about this, and what do you see coming through? And yes, of course, I'm going to be all over the contact tracing. I got another video coming up after this one, so stay tuned. I'm a contact tracer. I do it for money. It's so terrible. 300,000 contact tracers being hired by the Trump administration. Same here in Canada. We probably got like 30,000. It's like all of a sudden there's a new job. There's a new sheriff in town. And then, yeah, people talking about that. Like, isn't it interesting? It's like defund the cops, defund the cops. But what are they funding? Well, they're funding the contact tracers. And now they're using the contact tracing to trace down those radicals, to trace down those people. They started, and I showed this in some of my live streams, where they started using contact tracing in Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, to track down some of those looters, right? And some of those people that are involved. And it's like, well, wait a second. We didn't sign on. Nobody signed on for anything, of course. So Apple and Google carrying out that whole scam. And you see how they're responding. You see, it shows you so much that Apple and Google at the same time are dealing with the whole question here about, do Black Lives Matter? And it's like they're both on this, of course, because they're working together, just like they work together for the contact tracing. It's all the same beast, folks. Anyways, if you like my work, please do come and support me. Patreon links in the description. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I have another big one coming in, so stay tuned. I'll see you guys all on the next one. Take it easy, folks.